This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us, big eyes. They have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal?
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yeah, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, he's good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends Podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
And welcome back to the Mythical Legends Podcast. We are so glad to be back here today, and we have a special co-host today. Hey John, how's things, buddy?
Hello, dear boy. How are you?
I am very, very well, mate. Very, very well. How's things?
I would just like to tell the audience that you threatened to hurt me if I didn't behave. So I am behaving.
Why say that? Why say that,
Because
John?
I'm scared of you. You obviously reduced me to a quivering jelly.
So to everyone out there, we are so glad to be back, and I'm sorry that we haven't kept updated with the podcast. Stop laughing, John. So we are back here today with an amazing guest. Can you stop laughing? Because otherwise you will make me lose the plot.
Hang on, haven't you been keeping the podcast updated? I didn't know this.
Oh, well, you should, shouldn't you?
Well, you can always watch my show, which goes out on Saturday afternoons at 3:00, and I dress as a chicken.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry for our guest because I'm watching him backstage right now. I'm so sorry for you, mate. We are again so glad to be back and with our special co-host. Now, something I have to say before we bring our guest on is we from the 1st of November my family starts Christmas technically, so this is the first podcast I'm wearing my Christmas shirt on this year, so I need some recognition from that.
Dear.
It is time to move on now, John, and I think it's unfair if we just yeah, right. I'm just going to bring our guest on and we can have a good podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to get out now to the audience before we get serious?
Yes, my co-host has just come into the room, so she'll be joining us during the show.
That is not your dog, is it?
That is my dog, yes, Archie.
Okay. You also may see some cats walk in front of John's screen a couple of times. As you all know out there, that John has been on as a guest co-host before, and things have gone very wrong.
Well, the thing is, as well, as some of you may or may not know, I'm very ill these days. I'm actually in bed. So
no one needs to see that, John.
Yes, they do. I even bothered to put a shirt on. It's my special Eden Project Magic Mushroom shirt that my stepdaughter gave to me. I'm wearing a shirt rather than just being in bed not wearing a shirt, because I didn't want, to
scar me and Rocco for life.
No, I was thinking I didn't want to overwhelm the show with so much sexiness.
Right, we are going to have to edit that out. Right, so now time to bring our guest on now. So I have just given you all his name. His name is Rocco. He is a very dear friend of mine, and he was at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and I got the pleasure to meet Rocco in person. And in my opinion, it's always best to meet someone in person to actually know who they are. And it's sadly, I've also met John as well, which is a completely different experience. Right, time to bring our guest on and have some more fun. So I proudly present to the stage Rocco.
Hello, how are you? Happy Christmas, Daniel.
How's things, buddy?
Easter,
What's that?
Happy Easter, Daniel.
Yes. And how are you,
How's
John?
things, buddy?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just enjoying teasing Daniel.
Excellent. Yes. Good company. Always good company.
So, Rocco, I'm going to dive straight in, mate, and
Sure.
go with, how did you get involved in the cryptozoology world?
Sure. So I'm from New Mexico. I was born and raised, and it's a state of enchantment is really what they call it. But in every pocket of every corner of that state, there's always something, either between skinwalkers to, Roswell and UFOs. I came from Alamogordo, which is about 45 minutes to an hour drive from Roswell. So, it's, very close. Everything's interconnected. And then there's always talk of different cryptid, animals and or beings or, anything. So there's always been that fascination, I think, just raised in my local area. So that'd be probably how I got into it.
Nice. And say, where are you based now?
I'm now in Orlando, Florida. Yeah. So a little bit ways away from there, but yeah, I live right on Walt Disney World property. I love it.
Nice.
Beautiful place. Yeah.
So now I know that you have had some history, possibly with your family and with Area 51. So
yeah,
what's your opinion about Area 51?
So let me start with, my father worked for the government, and before any of this happened, it was just, he was, just your average Joe, kind of go to work type thing. But he came home one day with a box full of UFO books and videos and was just fascinated, overwhelmed with it. I mean, you could not pull him away from the TV. He was watching everything he could, taking in as much as he could. Something happened to him. And we didn't even know that he was working at Area 51. We just knew he was working at White Sands Missile Range, which is close by, until eventually it kind of came out of the bag, and we knew that he was being airbacked there. So, but we weren't, really allowed to talk about it. We, were told not to say anything about it to anybody. And I grew up with that, which is fine. But my father was so fascinated and overwhelmed in an overwhelming sense that you have to really sit there and wonder, what's this all about? There's something there to it. We would ask him over and over again. He said, he's not going to say anything, of course, but there's definitely something to it.
Wow. So kind of, John, what's your history with Area 51? Because I don't actually know kind of what your thoughts are.
My history was, I was in Nevada once doing a lecture to a thing, and I was offered to go and have a trip out to see at least where Area 51 was. But I stayed in the bar because there was actually this chick I really fancied in the hotel. So that's my history with Area 51.
And there you go again, ladies and gentlemen. There's Mr. Jonathan Downs. So you just mentioned kind of that your father worked kind of in the government. Do you think that this actual facility, the government is controlling this, or do you think that it's private kind of?
No, I believe it's definitely government controlled. I think that there's for them to put that much security and effort behind making sure that people do not get there, they've got something going on there. Now, whether it is internationally, I guess a group of like minds that can come up with all of these aeronautical and space things, whether it's just testing that or if it's actually ufology, I couldn't really say, but I would have to say there's just something odd going on in the skies. New Mexico, even there, you see so many lights and things like that you just cannot explain. The other night ago, my mother was on the phone with me and she's like, "Oh, there's an orange light right outside out right now," and I'm like, it becomes so natural and so common that people just ignore it, honestly. But it happens a lot. Yeah.
And there's a lot of kind of what I call it encounters around the world, and this is where John can kind of come in a bit more on kind of the figures. I don't know about the UK, but I know in the States that there's an awful lot kind of that are dotting everywhere, and I think that's something that people don't explore more, because you hear all about kind of your Bigfoot, you hear all about your ghosts, you hear kind of your paranormal, and UFOs is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think it's something that's just as interesting, I think, because lights in the sky. All I know that there's lights in the sky is stars, but kind of there's so many accounts that you can't ignore it. Would you agree there, John?
Oh yeah, I've seen. Being serious for a moment, I mean, I've seen lights in the sky and things that appeared to be solid in the sky I couldn't explain, which meant in the very real sense, they are unidentified flying objects. Because they're flying, I couldn't identify them and they were objects. That doesn't mean to say that they were alien spacecraft or secret government whatever, but they were things that I couldn't identify and that were flying. So yeah, this stuff happens.
And it's something that it's something that I think we need to explore, as well as looking at your Bigfoot and that kind of. Oh hey, there's Archie.
We have a visitor.
So my kind of final question on the Area 51 for you, Rocco, is
sure.
What's your opinion of what is inside this facility? Now, it's a big question. What do you think is inside this government kind of?
I think we've been visited. I think that they are probably reverse engineering something, if not learning from interstellar people or peoples of some kind, aliens, if you want to call them that. There's more technology out there than we are even close to even comprehending. I think that when it comes to, like, right now, we have telephones and we've got cell phones, and people 100 years ago would have never dreamt that we would be on cell phones, So even to have that technology right now, and how much forward advanced we are now, the government and everything else, they're way ahead of all that already. So I think that's what's really happening out there. So
well, yeah, at any time, I'm sure that there is technology that is 40 years in advance of anything you'll see at Farnborough Air Show.
Absolutely.
For example, the stealth fighter. It was first flown in 1972, and the Air Force only admitted it existed in the early 90s, the first Gulf War. And that was over 20 years after it had first been flown. And people only got a chance to photograph it or get close to it about 10 years after that. So there's bound to be stuff. Sure. What do you think about Project Aurora? Do you think that's real?
I've never heard of it myself.
Oh, now
neither.
This is the alleged next generation British and American aircraft. It's been seen once that anyone knows, and that was seen by somebody who was working on an oil rig in the sea off Scotland and saw this strange thing up in the sky, this strange glowing craft up in the sky. And it's the only time anyone's ever reported seeing it. Everybody always denies it exists, but so many people have denied that it exists. It's getting stupid. It makes one believe that this thing does exist. And I think that would be based at Area 51.
I could see that. Absolutely.
Because Area 51, let's face it, New Mexico is sparsely populated, not easy to get to.
Exactly.
And this is the most remote and difficult to get to part of New Mexico. And it's going to be a place where the secrets of the Western world are kept.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that one, for sure. There's so much room for them to test all of these things out, and there's open sky. There's nothing really around major cities, or very sparse and few between. So, it's the absolute perfect landscape for all of that.
I could be being really ridiculous here, but I'm going to throw this question out anyway. What got the name Area 51? How did they get that name?
I'm going to guess myself, and I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to say that they section off different parts of the states or things into areas. And that's probably that governmental name for that specific spot. As basic as that may seem, I think that's really what it is. But,
yeah, it's the one in between. And I'm not being silly. It's the one in between Area 50 and Area 52.
Right. There you go.
I can figure that out. I was just kind of wondering what got it that kind of name.
What? Yeah.
So right, I am going to come up with an advert now, guys, and then after we are going to come back with a completely different subject. And we can't wait to talk more, especially if Jonathan Downs is muted. Right, and here comes the advert.
For half an hour on Saturday afternoons and for a quarter of an hour on Wednesday evenings, the world's only show about hard science, weird shit and surreality. And it's co-presented by an anthropomorphic chicken. Be there or be square. Well, I thought that was a remarkably good piece of cinematic art.
I think that was great, personally. It was entertaining. Yeah, I'll give you that.
I can say
I like this bloke. I really like this guy, Daniel. He's much better than most of the rubbish.
Well, the point of an advertisement is supposed to be to get the point across, right? So if you remember that much of it, then it was entertaining. So I have to say that for sure.
Rocco, I'm gonna be completely honest, mate. When I have my other co-hosts on here, or I have other guests and we're live, we all laugh at that for probably about 10 minutes because it's so hilariously funny, and everyone goes, "I don't understand that." And I go, "Well, I do because I know."
I couldn't tell you that I got the whole point of it, but it was funny to watch.
Well, Rocco's obviously a young man of great taste and sagacity. Unlike the other hosts, are too stupid to understand great art.
well, what about my grandmother?
I love your grandmother. Your grandmother is a remarkable and very beautiful lady, and far too good to be related to you.
Okay, let's stop talking now. So moving on from there then, Rocco. So I know a little bit about kind of your cryptid background, let's say.
Sure.
So have you ever had a Bigfoot sighting or cryptid sighting. Go with anyone that you want, and we'll talk about that.
Sure. I myself have only had one cryptid, and it would be Bigfoot for sure. At least that's what I can label it as, or come the closest to it, making sense of it. I work on Walt Disney World property at the time, and I was actually overseeing a few homes here in Celebration that had just been built. And it was everything was brand new all around the homes, dirt, dust, everything, just freshly tilled soil, and probably 3 or 4 homes. Everything else was just flat, leveled ground. They had just went into the forest. So I was locking up the home, and all the workers had gone home for the day. I'm just kind of walking around the house, making sure everything looks right. And I let myself out the back, and I got that feeling like something just wasn't quite right. And then it so much so that I was looking out into the forest from the house, and I let the door close behind me, which meant I locked myself out of the house. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go around to the front. So I start walking towards there, and all of a sudden the trees start shaking. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. So I look over a little closer and try to see what's going on there. And there's something in the brush. I can see teeth, like smiling almost. It looked like something was smiling and just shaking this tree back and forth. He wasn't very tall. I won't give him that, but I'll tell you, he was very not a human. I can say that much. And to this day, I can't explain what I saw. It was that jarring for me. Before
I pass it on to John, because I know that kind of you'll want to kind of go in on one angle, but the angle that I'm going to go into is that feeling inside. Mm-hmm. I have been very lucky enough to feel that feeling, going, there's something here, and
there's just something not quite right. Yeah.
And I know it's here, and it's that kind of feeling to go, what is that? What is that?
It's instinctual. You get that feeling, and you know that something's just not quite right. And when that happened, you've never seen me walk faster than I've ever booked it. Let me tell you, around the house, and I was out of
hairs on the back of your neck.
I mean, I was gone. My hairs. I left the hairs there. Let me tell you, I just took off, and so it was intense. I think that after I saw that, it was hard to convince anybody else that I had seen it. And I kept myself quiet about it because I thought, what am I going to do? Then I thought about calling the police, but then I'm like, what are the police going to do? They're going to go and see this thing. I don't know what his face was too wide. It was not a human. I can't say that much, but then I come to find out that there's this, swamp ape, and they call him skunk ape, as well, here in Florida. And I'm like, no, there's no way. And then sure enough, I find out that it's in this forest over here, and it all of a sudden all added up. And I'm like, okay, then I know what I saw. And I've heard from few people now that have experienced the same thing, because we live all right here on the wildlife preserve that's been put together by Disney, and it's absolutely beautiful, but it's a vast forest, and it's just, there's definitely something out there for sure.
And I think it's that something that I always started off with people asking me the question, what would you do if you had a Bigfoot sighting? And I always predicted what I would do, and run away. and I'm gonna leave it there. But I think for that, once you have had that experience to go, there is something in front of me. I know it's there. I can see it's there. You go, yep. You can't think. You can in here. You can't. You don't
logically. 2 seconds, because it's your life. I mean, you're literally thinking, it's you got to get out of there, because that kind of terror that runs through your body that quickly. I don't know how people even have the opportunity to hold a camera up and try to take a film of that. I would no, thank you. There, so I can imagine that's why there's so many just blurry photos or whatever. Kudos to them for even being able to do it. I had no strength to find my phone or try to take a picture or video of it. I didn't even run through my mind. I was like, I got to get out of here. So and it just, I still think about it to this day. And we went the next morning. Okay, this gets even better. Next morning, because there was sand everywhere. They had just started to dig for the pool. They were going to put in the pool, and in the sand are footprints. I'm talking all over the place. And the guy, one of the contractors, was joking and asking, who's out here playing around in the sand? Like, we don't even built the pool yet. Like, and then it hit me, and I thought, oh, okay. And this was, by the end of the day, they told me about it, and I thought, okay, that's good to know. So there was definitely something. I don't know, yeah, but nobody's
John,
gonna be walking out there,
I'll pass that on to you now.
Did you photograph the footprints?
I know, I never told anyone what had happened, and they got in there in the morning to start doing their work. And then they mentioned to me, we came in, were you out here last night? Were you, there's like footprints everywhere. What were we doing out here? And I'm like, no, I said, there was something that I saw that I think, and then of course they start, oh, what was it? Bigfoot, and like, okay, so I'm not going to go there, but they're contractors and just let them, do their thing. But it's jarring. It really is. I can't imagine in that. It was August. August is the hottest month in Florida. And if you've been to Florida and you know what it's like breathing syrup here, that sweltering hot, there's no human on earth that would get into a costume. I mean, even people at, the parks, just how would you get into something that hot? And for what? What purpose would it serve? This thing was, clearly trying to, I feel like it was trying to ward me off. And I've come to realize now, after studying them, that primates tend to smile when they're trying to be aggressive, and that's something that I've learned since then. But it was terrifying one way or the other. Absolutely, I couldn't pick up the rest of it. But yeah,
I've been there multiple times in the summer. If you had no clothes on, it wouldn't matter.
No, absolutely. It is just, you absolutely do.
And you can barely walk out of the swimming pool, let alone get in a suit, swing on trees, even in the shade. Half hour would do you out. And that's where, and I can relate to that because I know exactly what it's like. So, and I don't know, John, if you've been there kind of August.
I've not been there in August, but I've been in the tropics in August.
But then, John, you'd appreciate this. So you take into those factors as well, where you've got snakes, venomous snakes, of all kinds, and then you've got these spiders and tarantulas and all kinds of creepy things. Nobody in their right mind is going to be out there in the woods playing around. It's just not the environment for that, especially not in a monkey suit. So
no, it's a bloody stupid thing to do.
Yeah, it would just.
You said it wasn't very tall, but roughly how tall would you say it was?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't put it past maybe 6.5, 7 feet tall. So he was more wide than he was tall. He was very broad, because I could see shoulders from coming up. It was just some bush that he's. But even that strength, it just, I don't know. And it had hands, so it wasn't a bear. I know that much.
What color was it?
It was a brownish, orangish color. I want to say more of a lighter, like auburn, something of that nature. But
so just Rocco, for me to get kind of a image of what you're looking at, and this is going to be a really weird comparison, but so do you remember the guy dressed up in a Bigfoot suit in
yes
Great Florida? Was that how tall it was?
About small, maybe just a pinch shorter, but definitely as broad. And that's what was striking about it. It was like there's something that you're not expecting, almost just too big to be a human, but not quite what I was trying. The second that I saw it, I thought for a moment, I'm on Disney property. Maybe there's somebody from in the parks from the costume just trying to be funny. And that ran through my mind in a millisecond when I thought it's too hot. There's too many, just none of the things added up. And then I saw the teeth, and that was like saliva teeth. Like it was real teeth. And it was a short distance as it was. I think it was trying to protect, its territory or something like that and get me to go away. And I took the the advice and left. So needless to say.
How long was it completely covered in hair?
I couldn't say that it was. I couldn't see the entire body per se. I could just see the shoulders and a little bit of the face and an outline. I think of the head and the body. I didn't see the full body, but it looked like he was hairy. Yeah.
And how long was the hair? Was it sort of long haired or short haired?
I'd say a couple of inches long. I think it was more short, but wafy. It's just like the only thing I can describe it is like Harry and the Hendersons, like the Bigfoot that's on there. It looked like that, and his head was kind of pointy too, but it was wide. It was so wide. That's what it just still strikes me. I couldn't see the eyes, but I could see the teeth when and there's nothing on the parks or property that has anything like that. I know that for a fact because I worked in entertainment there. So I couldn't put one and two together fast enough to figure it out. But, it was a jarring experience, like I said. Yeah. Alarming.
Were there any other sightings at the same sort of time that you heard?
So it's a new neighborhood. And down the street, there was a friend of mine that her parents had just purchased a home. And she told me one night, we were having just a lemonade, iced tea, something out on the back patio. She invited us over because they just finished up the house, and we're looking out, and I was very uneasy because I had already had that experience, and I was like, okay, so here we are facing the woods again, And she said the dogs came out, started barking, but they wouldn't go up to the fence line. She's like, I can't figure out why those dogs will not go up to the fence line. I just don't know why. She said, but I want to say there's something out there because she said that something was throwing rocks at the dogs, and she thought maybe it was one of the neighbor's kids or something, but they wouldn't really be out in the woods, So she said she was telling me that they were going to set up some cameras. I haven't really spoke to them since that has happened to see if anything, was caught on camera or anything. But she was like, there's definitely something weird going on out here. And I shared with her my experience. And then she said, oh, okay. So then she became very interested in it, and there's another person I also heard from. He is a professional, I don't say baseball player, I think, he and his wife. But he just said that they just heard things out there, just weird things. You hear some odd sounds out there too. Occasionally a cry or something just piercing enough, and then it's gone. Like it's not really. But when the woods get quiet, and they get quiet quick, it's very, Florida has a lot of bugs and insects and everything like that. Cicadas making all these sounds, but then when everything quiets down, something's just not, something's not quite right.
So to kind of help you a little bit there, John. So Rocco, do you remember Marie from kind of across from me? From my booth, mid-Florida.
So, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, John, so the mid-Florida Bigfoot research team does work. Do you know where they do their work, Rocco? Is it?
I know that they do statewide. I believe. Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they do work all over the place, and I know that there are sightings around Orlando. Judged from what they've done.
Yes, I've spoke to her before, yeah.
And knowing and being in Disney several times, the amount of land that they own
It's crazy.
is unbelievable, and I can see now. I'm imagining it to be the Disney parks, but no, it's a lot more than that. There's a lot more kind of, and seeing how much land that they own, it would make sense. So I'm thinking that it's an odd one. It's a really odd one because I
When was this?
This would be in 2008. It happened to me. And in 2008, it was August of 2008. I think I mentioned earlier, yeah. Dead middle of the hottest summer. I mean, it's just really the heat beating down and everything. Been muggy, outside. But
So we're talking about 16 years ago.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because a couple months later, I was born because I was born 2009. So
See, so there were other
there you go. There you go.
coming into the world as well.
Oh, dear. I'm gaining age here now.
Nothing
I'm not.
Me, I'm 65.
Mate, you look like a lot older than that. So,
You're a
Rocco,
horrible child, aren't you?
he said
I
that
think we
in
should
my
take a vote
documentary.
amongst the studio audience. And who thinks he's a horrible child? Me?
No.
No.
Oh, I thought you were on my side. I thought you were.
I'm on
No.
both. I'm on everyone's side there.
So, Rocco, what's your opinion of Bigfoot? So, if I explain it a little bit more, I'm talking about you've got different camps in the Bigfoot world. You've got your flesh and blood, you've got your spiritual, you've got your paranormal. I don't like to use the word paranormal because it covers everything.
Sure.
So you've got your going into portals and coming out.
I don't know
that
I personally buy into the whole interdimensional. I mean, I think anything is possible now that I've seen things, but I would have to say, for me, for sure, it's a flesh and blood animal. It is just something that's just. I mean, Dr. Maria Mayer is one of my most favorite people to see, and as well as just learning from her and seeing everything that she's done on Expedition Bigfoot, and she takes it from a scientific angle, and that's really where I think it should be viewed from, and they should be collecting information and data that way, so that we've got something else to then check it against. You have to keep doing that when you're doing any kind of science. So and Dr. Meldrum, of course, I'm a huge fan of him as well. So when you see that you've got these intellectual people that are able to come after what is some kind of cryptid animal, but is also a hominid of some sort or something of that nature, it's just, I think it's a branch of another, maybe orangutan or something of the Gigantopithecus, as most people have theorized. I definitely buy into that. I think more than anything else.
And I think a lot of the people that watch this podcast will realize every time someone says the word portal, I will roll my eyes. Because I'm what, John?
Portal.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He was lying, boys and girls. He didn't roll his eyes.
So when
he did it then.
Stop. When people bring up the words portal, I go, no, I'm not in that realm. But as you just said, Rocco, very rightly, that I am open to it all.
Sure.
Until someone shows me and puts me in a portal, I will not believe it.
I can't explain. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. I can't explain for why other people do have these experiences, and I'm sure that they do, and they are. I can't imagine that any of them are, falsifying anything. I don't know. Also, like with them being able to disappear and everything like that, there's something about it. Perhaps it's something in their hair. Maybe they're able to
Camouflage.
reflect light or mirror something, and that's how they're able to cloak themselves. I'm not sure, but that seems to be a very big common denominator with a lot of people, that they can cloak themselves. And I think that might just fall into, they blend right into their background. I mean, you just would never see half of them, if you just don't stop and stare and one of them moves. You would scan an entire tree line, and half the times I don't even know what I'm looking at until someone points it out. I'm like, oh my gosh, there you go. So,
and that's where it kind of it gets confusing. But as you just said, there are so many stories out there that do kind of say that this is happening. One of my favorite ones is from someone named Brett Eichenberger, director of the Flash of Beauty documentaries.
Yes.
So
yes.
he's one of our guests at the conference in May, and
Wonderful.
we were doing a podcast live, and he told us a story of they got sent all these hair samples, and they looked at a particular one, and they went, "Oh, that's cool." They took it round to a friend of theirs to show. It was gone. They opened the envelope and it was gone. Honestly, gone. Then when they got back home, which was kind of 3-4 hours, they looked at it. It was there.
Interesting.
Now, the angle that they looked at it, it disappeared, came back, disappeared, came back, and I'm like, I can't explain that. That's something personally, if that actually happened, I can't explain that. That's not out of the realm to kind of go. It's like when you kind of go, "Oh, what's that doing?"
I think even what people called 100 years ago to today as witchcraft, if we held up, like I said, our cell phones 100 years ago, people would be like, freaking out. So, or even 200 years ago, for that matter, 300 years ago, it'd be burned at the stake. But you've got all those things. They call that magic. Well, it's just really science. And I think that even this strand of hair, if it has the ability to reflect or mirror or cloak itself or whatever you want to call it, there's maybe a holographic way that just you're catching the light. And I believe that that's definitely, there's a science to it. I wouldn't call it necessarily magical, but then anything that's magical, it really is science. I mean, how do you explain planets being suspended, in time space, space time and whatever? It just, there's so many things that we can't really explain, but we like to with other stories and everything. But there's, I think, a science to everything. We just don't know all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, Rocco.
So
the trouble is that we as a species are incredibly big-headed and arrogant. We think we know, and by hell we don't.
Jonathan does.
These things are not magic. Shut up, Daniel. They're not magic. They're just defined by laws of physics we don't understand yet. A bit like that.
Yep. I just recently in January was admitted to Harvard University, and I'm taking classes there. Yes, great.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I'm, one of the first things that we talk about in the physics class for quantum physics was about how there's so much like the spooky stuff and all this kind of stuff that is all explainable through physics and through science. You just have to really be able to study it or try to get into the grooves of it all, but it starts to present itself. So I think that that's just a matter of time for us, or maybe the government at Area 51 already know it and we just waiting for it to spill itself out. So when we're ready for it. But
I think the governments know a hell of a lot more than they tell us about everything.
You think about, I have to say this. So you've got all these cameras, right, that they put onto a space probe that's in deep space now that they sent in the 70s. Now, it's still sending us pictures back. That's a technology that I don't think anybody even dreamt would even exist at that time. And I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, we're still getting those high resolution photos. That's pretty. It tells you where the real technology was at that time, which is impressive. So I can only imagine where we're at, how advanced we are at this point. So
agreed.
That's where I think it'll just keep going. It will just keep going, and there could be a point where we get there. That it could happen. Whether in John's lifetime, we're kind of edging kind of to the point where. So my last.
You are
question,
a horrible child.
Rocco, to everyone out there, I said that live on a podcast with another person. I went, well, John may not be here when that happens, so it's now kind of a running joke between myself and John.
I think it's funny, the idea of an old man like me going into his final decline and in the autumn of my life.
That turned. So my final question for you, Rocco, is so everyone in the cryptozoology world goes somewhere with their plans. Where are you planning to go with it? You plan to go nowhere, or you plan to go to more conferences, or
what you're saying? Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah. So where are you planning to go next? What's your next kind of thing in the cryptozoology world?
Sure. I think right now I'm just getting a good feel for it and learning everyone's presence, and I think just kind of seeing where I fit in and all of that. I have done almost anything you could possibly imagine when it comes to having a career. I've done everything from starting with medicine to going into events and shows, like I told you before. I even worked for Ride and Show Engineering and Walt Disney Imagineering and getting creative and history. And so I encompass a whole spectrum of I think things that, I enjoy when it comes to fix arm, was that John? So I think that it's just a matter of finding my place. I really, really appreciate all these very strong personalities that are in the cryptid world. That's for sure. And I love that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a very strong personality on here. I'm not sure we all need to say exactly who it is, but I think everyone can guess. Definitely not me and Rocco. So guys, I have.
You were talking about Archie, weren't you?
There's Archie again. Of course. So guys, I have really enjoyed this podcast. I don't know about you Rocco, likewise. And you, John.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yes, me too. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So there's a couple of things I'm going to say to you all that are watching this. So we have our Cryptid Conference UK on May 31st.
In 6 months' time.
Why don't you pipe down, John? We're on May 31st, and we have something called a VIP package that can turn your one-day event into a 3-day event. That sends a shiver down my spine every time I say it. And we are getting so many different guests coming to the conference. I think we're now up to 30 different guests that are going to be at the conference. Why don't you stop huffing and puffing, John? And we would like you all to be there. So all our ticket links, all the announcements are on the CryptidCon Facebook page, and then we also have kind of my other groups, which is the Bigfoot Research Group, which Rocco down here is doing most of the work for. So if you head into that group, Rocco will be the first person that you meet. And then anyone who loves this podcast, you can follow it on our website, www.mythicallegends.co.uk, and you can visit our Mythical Legends group that is on Facebook, and we have our YouTube channel, and we're also on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. So, Rocco, is there anything else you would like to say, my friend?
Not other than as far as having had been in entertainment myself and also on television and everything else, I'd have to say that you are a fantastic beacon of inspiration for a lot of people, myself included. So I can I have to say I do find it
Thank you,
very
Rocco.
refreshing.
Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kudos to you,
John.
Thank you for having me on the show.
You are more than welcome, Rocco. We will see you in the next podcast, guys. Keep searching, stay mythical, and most importantly, make sure you stay safe out there, because sometimes it can get very, very dangerous. Thanks, guys, and just to make John annoyed, happy Christmas, and I shall see you in the next podcast.
It's
Thanks,
the
guys.
beginning of November, for God's sake.
Bye.
That was very cool.
1 sec.